It was midnight and John sat alone in his small house. Rain fell outside, heavy and cold, making the streets empty and silent. The sound of water hitting the roof was the only music in the night. John liked quiet nights, but this night was different. He felt something strange in the air, as if danger was hiding close. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was soft at first, almost too quiet to notice. Then another knock came, stronger this time, slow and heavy. John froze in his chair. Who would knock at midnight? In the middle of the storm, cautiously, he stood up and walked to the door, his heart beat faster. He reached for the handle but stopped. What if it was a thief or someone dangerous? The knock came again, this time with a faint voice. Please, I only have $3. Let me shower at your home. Human, John's eyes widened. The voice was strange. Soft, but not fully human. It had a sharp edge, like music and metal mixed together. He slowly opened the door, and what he saw made his breath catch. On his porch stood a woman, but not an ordinary woman. Her clothes were torn, covered with mud, and her skin glowed faintly under the rain. Her hair was messy and wet, sticking to her face. Her eyes were large. Shining with a strange blue light, she looked tired, weak, and desperate. John did not speak, he only stared, trying to understand what he was seeing. The woman shivered, holding a small coin purse in her hands. She opened it and showed him 3 wet dollar bills. Her voice cracked. I only have this. I just need water, warmth, and a place to clean myself. Please. John's mind raced. He had heard stories about aliens living secretly among humans. Most people laughed at those stories, calling them lies. But here on his porch was proof. A dirty alien woman begging for help. He wanted to shut the door. It would be safer. But something in her eyes stopped him. It was fear, deep fear, like she was running from something terrible. Against his better judgment, John stepped aside. Come in, he said quietly. She walked inside slowly, leaving wet footprints on the floor. Her hands shook as she held her torn clothes close to her body. John closed the door and locked it. His heart still beating too fast, inside the house felt warmer. But the air was heavy with silence. The alien woman looked around nervously. As if she expected enemies hiding in the shadows, her chest rose and fell quickly. Thank you, she whispered. You will not regret this. I promise. John did not answer. He watched her closely. There was something strange about her movements. She was graceful even when weak, like a dancer who had forgotten her steps. Her feet almost floated across the wooden floor. He pointed to the bathroom. There. You can shower, he said. She nodded and hurried away, clutching the $3 tightly as if afraid he might steal them. John sat down, but his mind was restless. Water began to run in the bathroom. He could hear her moving, hear the sound of clothes falling to the floor. He told himself not to think about it, but curiosity was strong. Who was she? Why his house? Why the $3? Minutes passed, the sound of water continued. John stood up, slowly walked down the hall, and paused near the bathroom door. Through the thin wall, he heard a faint humming sound. It was not human humming. It was something alien, vibrating like a song from another world. He leaned closer. Suddenly the humming stopped, then he saw it. A line of blue light shone under the bathroom door. Faint but clear, it flickered and moved like living fireflies. John stepped back quickly, his breath caught in his throat. What was happening inside? The sound of water stopped. Silence filled the house again. Then the door opened slowly and she stepped out. Wrapped in a towel John had left, her wet hair glowed faintly, and her back showed strange scars glowing like symbols. John stared at them, his mouth dry. The marks were not scars. They were moving, shifting patterns. The alien woman noticed his gaze. She quickly pulled the towel tighter and whispered, You should not have seen that. For a moment, their eyes met, blue light against human doubt. John knew then that his life had changed forever. He had let in something dangerous, something hunted, and whatever was chasing her would soon come for him too. The house was silent, but John's mind was loud. He could not forget the glowing marks on her back, moving like fireflies trapped under skin. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those living symbols dancing. He wanted answers, but fear chained his tongue. The alien woman sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket now, her hair still wet. Her eyes stayed on the window as if she expected someone to burst in at any second. Her shoulders were tense, her hands shaking even while holding a cup of water John had given her. She did not drink, she only stared at the shadows outside. John cleared his throat. Who are you? He asked softly. She did not look at him. For a long time there was silence. Broken only by the rain, finally, she whispered. A runaway, her answer was simple, but the weight behind it was heavy. John leaned forward. Runaway from what? Now she turned, her glowing eyes piercing into his. From your kind, she said, her voice trembling but filled with quiet anger. John felt a chill crawl down his back. She pulled the blanket tighter, then slowly opened it again with trembling hands. She pulled her shirt down a little to reveal the marks on her back. Blue light ran through the symbols, shifting in slow waves like breathing. These are not scars, she said. They are chains. John frowned, not understanding. The alien woman looked down at her hands. They captured us, your people. They promised us peace, promised safety. But it was a trap, her voice cracked. We were taken to hidden places, cut open, studied, broken, until we were nothing but numbers in their books. John's stomach turned. It was hard to believe, but those glowing chains on her back were real. They pulsed like living proof of her story. Why you? John asked. Why would they chase you here? Her lips trembled, and she looked away. Because I escaped, she said, and because I carry something they want. The air grew heavy with tension. John's eyes went to the purse on the table where the 3 wet dollar bills lay. It looked ordinary, useless even, but something about it bothered him. Is it the money? He asked. Is that what you carry? She gave a faint, broken laugh. No, human, $3 is not just money, but you are not ready to know. Her laugh faded. Replaced by silence and fear, she looked at the window again, her voice lowering. They will come. They always come. John followed her gaze and his blood froze. A black van rolled slowly down the street, its headlights off, moving like a predator in the dark. He stepped closer to the window, his breath fogging the glass. The van stopped at the corner, waiting, watching. Shadows moved inside, too many to count. The alien woman stood quickly, clutching the blanket around her. They found me, she whispered, her whole body shaking. Her eyes glowed brighter, wild with fear. Do not open the door. Do not speak to them if they know you have me. You will die too. John's heart pounded. This was not his fight, he told himself. He could throw her out, close the door, pretend nothing happened. But when he looked at her trembling hands, at the marks glowing like living pain, something inside him shifted. She was hunted, broken, but still alive, and she had chosen his house to beg for help. Maybe that meant something. A loud knock shattered the silence. John jumped, nearly dropping the glass he still held. The knock came again, hard and demanding. He glanced at her. She shook her head, eyes wide, lips pressed shut. Another knock, louder. Open up, police, a voice called. But John felt the lie in the words, his breath quickened. If he opened the door, they would see her, and everything would end if he lied. They might force their way in anyway. The alien woman grabbed his arm, her fingers cold. Do not trust them, please. John nodded slowly. His body trembling, he forced himself to speak. Loud enough for the door. It's late, I'm not opening. Silence followed. Long and suffocating, then a calm voice spoke. We are looking for someone dangerous if you see anything. Report it. The sound of boots echoed outside as they walked back toward the van. John peeked through the curtain. The black van had not left. It only moved farther down the street, waiting. His stomach tightened. This was not over. It was only beginning. The alien woman sank into the couch, her head in her hands. You saved me, she whispered, her voice breaking. But you have put yourself in danger now. They will not stop. Not until they have me. John sat across from her, his mind racing. He had a choice, a dangerous one. If he turned her in, maybe he would be safe. If he helped her, he would become a target too. But when he looked into her glowing eyes, full of fear and pain, he knew he had already chosen. For better or worse, he would not betray her. The marks on her skin told him the truth. She was more than a runaway. She was the key to something much bigger, something humans were hiding. And by opening his door tonight, John had stepped into a war he never knew existed. The night grew heavier. Rain slowed, leaving behind a silence so deep that every sound felt louder. Inside John's house, the air was thick with fear. The alien woman sat in the dark corner, her glowing eyes dim, her body trembling. John stood near the window, watching the black van parked at the end of the street. He whispered, "They are waiting." The alien woman nodded, her face pale. "They will not leave, not until I am theirs again." Her voice cracked, carrying both pain and terror. John clenched his fists, unsure of what to do. A sudden knock shook the door, loud and sharp. The sound echoed through the small house like thunder. John's heart jumped. The alien woman covered her mouth to stop a cry. The knock came again, harder this time. "Open the door," a voice commanded. Deep and calm. "This is official business. Open or we will break in." John froze. He thought about the truth. If they broke in, they would find her, and both of them would be finished. He looked back at the alien woman, her glowing marks faintly lighting the blanket she clutched. She shook her head quickly, her lips forming silent words. "Don't!" John forced his voice to sound steady. "Who are you?" he called. "We are security agents," the voice replied, smooth but cold. "There is a dangerous creature in the area. Let us check your home for your own safety." Dangerous creature? John thought bitterly. They were talking about her. His chest tightened. He needed time. He needed to think. "I haven't seen anyone," he shouted, trying to sound casual. For a moment there was silence. Then heavy boots stepped onto his porch, creaking the old wood. The door rattled as a hand pressed against it. "You sure?" the voice asked again, this time lower, almost threatening. John's throat felt dry. If they forced their way in, it was over. His eyes darted to the alien woman, her glowing eyes wide with terror. She suddenly pointed toward the basement door with shaking hands. John understood. Hide her. Now he rushed across the room, opened the basement door, and motioned for her to go down. She moved quickly but quietly, her bare feet making no sound on the wooden steps. The glowing marks on her back pulsed brighter as fear rushed through her. John closed the basement door softly, trying not to make noise. The knocking grew harder, angry now. "Last warning," the voice snapped. "Open this door." John's chest heaved. He pressed against the door from inside, trying to sound calm. "I told you there's no one here," he shouted. Silence followed, long and heavy. Then, footsteps retreated, slow and deliberate. John peeked through the curtain. The black van was still there, but the men in black coats were moving back toward it. One of them looked up directly at John's window, his face half hidden in shadow. Their eyes met for a split second, and John felt cold dread in his bones. That man knew, he thought. Somehow he knew. The van's engine rumbled, but it did not drive away. Instead, it stayed in the shadows, waiting like a predator in tall grass. John shut the curtain quickly, his body shaking. When he opened the basement door again, the alien woman was sitting on the bottom step, hugging her knees. She looked at him with both gratitude and sorrow. "You lied for me," she whispered. John sat beside her, breathing hard. "They almost forced their way in," he said. "Who are these people? Why do they hunt you like this?" Her glowing marks flickered as she lifted her head. "They are not just people, they are hunters," she said softly. "Men who sold their bodies for alien power, half human, half machine, half something else." Her voice dropped lower. "They take what they want and destroy the rest." John's mind reeled. Hunters, hybrids, experiments. Was this what she meant when she spoke of chains? He could hardly believe it, yet the fear in her eyes made it real. "Why you?" John asked, his voice low. "What makes you so important?" She hugged herself tighter. "Because of what I carry," she whispered. "Because I escaped with it, because if they get me, they will silence the truth forever." Before John could ask more, a noise outside made both of them stiffen. The sound of footsteps again, circling the house, then a faint metallic buzz. Like machinery scanning the walls, John's heart pounded. "They are searching," he muttered. The alien woman grabbed his arm, her grip firm despite her fear. "If they enter, you must not let them touch me," she said, her glowing eyes sharp. "Swear it." John swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "I swear," for a long time. They sat in the basement, listening, waiting. The sound of footsteps eventually faded, but the tension did not. John knew this was not the end. The hunters had marked his house, and they would return. He glanced at the alien woman beside him, fragile yet fierce by letting her in. He had crossed a line he could never step back from. Above them, thunder rolled again and the storm returned, but inside, John knew the true storm had only begun. Morning came, but it did not bring peace. John had barely slept, every creak of the house making him jump. The alien woman sat at the kitchen table, still wrapped in the blanket, her glowing marks faint but alive. Her eyes never rested, always scanning the windows. Always listening. The black van was gone. But John knew it was not over. He placed a cup of coffee in front of her. She stared at it, confused, then whispered, "Thank you." Her fingers shook as she lifted it, her hands still weak from fear and exhaustion. John sat across from her, his mind heavy with questions. Finally he spoke. "We can't stay here." "They will come back," the alien woman nodded slowly. "I know," she said, her voice soft but steady. "We must leave." "And soon," John leaned closer. "But where? Where can we go?" Her glowing eyes met his, and for the first time, they carried a spark of hope. "There is a way. A portal hidden beyond the city. It leads to safe ground, but it will not stay open forever." John frowned, unsure if he could believe her. A portal, safe ground, these words sounded like stories. But after everything he had seen, glowing scars, hunters in black vans, nothing felt impossible anymore. "How far?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Far enough that the journey will be dangerous. Close enough that we can reach it if we move fast." The rain had stopped. Leaving the streets damp and quiet, John gathered what little he had: a backpack, some food, a flashlight, and a heavy wrench he used for work. The alien woman clutched her small purse. The $3 bill still inside, John glanced at it, curiosity burning. "What's really in there?" he asked, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Not money," she said, "but proof, a key they fear." She would not say more, and John did not push. Instead, he opened the front door slowly, the morning air cool and heavy. The street looked normal, but John felt eyes everywhere. They stepped outside, moving quickly, keeping to the shadows. At first, the neighborhood was silent. But then John noticed small details: an old man sitting too still on his porch, a delivery truck parked too long by the corner. His chest tightened. "They're watching," he whispered. The alien woman nodded, her glowing eyes scanning the street. "Hunters see with more than eyes. Keep moving. Don't stop." They cut through alleys and back streets, every step filled with tension. John's heart raced each time he heard a distant engine or saw a shadow move. The alien woman walked fast, her bare feet silent against the pavement, her blanket now tied around her like a cloak. She moved with strange grace, as if every corner and turn was known to her. John followed, trying to keep up. At one point, a drone buzzed overhead. Its red light scanned the street. Sweeping back and forth, John pulled her into a doorway. Pressing against the wall, the light passed, missing them by inches. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his back. When the drone was gone, she looked at him. "You are learning," she whispered, almost proud. John gave a nervous laugh. Learning to stay alive. Hours passed. The city changing around them. Buildings grew taller. Streets busier, faces everywhere. John thought they might be safer in the crowd. But the alien woman shook her head. "No place is safe when hunters walk among them," she warned. Near the city limits, they stopped in an abandoned warehouse to rest. John leaned against the wall, exhausted. The alien woman sat on the floor, pulling the blanket around her. Her glowing marks pulsed faintly in the dim light. For a moment, John forgot the danger and simply stared. "You still haven't told me your name," he said quietly. She looked at him, surprised, then lowered her eyes. "Names are dangerous," she whispered. "If they hear it, they gain power over me." John shook his head. "Then I'll call you something else." After a pause, he said softly, "How about Lyra?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Lyra," she repeated. "It has a kind sound." Before John could say more, the sound of engines rumbled outside. He froze, peeking through the broken window. A black van rolled into the empty street, its headlights off. Figures stepped out, men in black coats, their movements sharp, inhuman, hunters. John's breath quickened. "They found us," he hissed. Lyra's glowing marks flared bright, fear flashing in her eyes. "They will not stop," she whispered. "Not until we are gone. Or I am dead." John tightened his grip on the wrench. His mind screamed to run, but his body stood firm. He looked at Lyra, fragile yet fierce, and made his choice. "We fight if we have to," he said, his voice low but steady. She nodded, her glowing eyes fierce. "Then we fight together." The hunters spread out, their shadows stretching across the wet pavement. John knew they had only moments before the warehouse was stormed. He glanced at the backpack, at Lyra, at the broken city outside. Every choice felt impossible, but he knew one truth. There was no turning back now. The escape plan had begun, and the hunters were closing in. The warehouse was silent after the hunters left. John and Lyra had managed to slip through the shadows, their escape narrow and breathless. Now they sat in an old storage room, both exhausted, both shaken. Rain dripped through holes in the roof, making a soft rhythm that filled the silence. John leaned against the wall, holding the heavy wrench like it was the only thing keeping him safe. Lyra sat on the floor, her knees pulled close, her glowing marks faint under the dim light. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, John broke the silence. "You keep saying you carry something they want. Something dangerous," he said, his voice low. "It's not just you they're after, it's what you have." Lyra's eyes lowered, her hands gripping the small purse tightly. Inside, the 3 crumpled dollar bills lay hidden. Soaked from the storm but still intact, she whispered, "Yes, what I hold is more dangerous than me." John frowned. Leaning closer, $3, he said. "Why risk your life for paper money?" Her glowing eyes met his, sharp and sad. "It is not paper, human." "Not to them," she said softly. "This money is not what it seems." John stared at the purse. Confused, "It looks normal," he muttered. Lyra shook her head. "It only looks normal to human eyes. But inside each bill is something more, something hidden." She pulled out the wet bills and laid them on the floor. In the dim light, John saw nothing unusual, just torn paper, green ink, faded numbers, but when Lyra touched them, her glowing marks lit up and the money shimmered faintly. Symbols appeared across the paper, faint blue letters moving like living code. John's breath caught. "What is that?" he whispered. Lyra's voice was heavy. "It is data stolen from them. Proof of their crimes." She pointed at the glowing lines. "These bills carry records of what they did to us. The names of those who were captured. The locations of their hidden labs. The weapons they are building." Her voice trembled. "If this data is revealed, the world will see the truth. And the hunters will lose their power." John stared at the glowing bills, his mind spinning. "So, $3 can destroy them," he muttered in disbelief. Lyra nodded. "Yes, but only if we survive long enough to deliver it." The weight of it sank into John like stone. He had thought she was just a runaway, just someone hiding from shadows. But now he realized she carried the power to expose an entire secret war. A secret that humans were not supposed to know. John rubbed his face with both hands, his voice tense. "Why me? Why did you come to my house? Why trust me with this?" Lyra looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, "Because you were invisible." John blinked. "Invisible," she nodded. "Your name does not appear in their systems. You do not use the machines they track. You live quiet, alone, hidden, and that made you the only place I could run." Her words struck him. It was true. John had no social accounts, no records online, no family nearby. He had always thought it made him small, unimportant, forgotten, but to her it made him safe. It made him the only human who could not be traced. The sound of thunder shook the warehouse, and John looked at the glowing bills again. His voice was heavy. "If this is true, then keeping you alive means keeping this secret alive." Lyra nodded, her glowing marks flickering like fireflies in the dark. "Yes, but it also means you will never be safe again." John let out a rough laugh. "I wasn't safe the moment I opened the door," he said. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Weak but real. For that I am grateful," she whispered. Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside. John froze, holding the wrench tighter. Lyra quickly gathered the bills and hid them back in her purse. The footsteps grew louder, voices following, deep. Sharp, metallic hunters. John's chest tightened. "We need to move," he whispered. Lyra nodded, her glowing eyes fierce. "The portal is close, but they will block our path. They always know where to wait." They slipped out the back of the warehouse, running through the wet streets. Every shadow felt alive, every corner dangerous. John's heart pounded, fear mixing with determination. He had the choice to run, to abandon her, but he knew he would not. The truth of the $3 had changed everything. As they moved deeper into the city's edge, the night grew darker, the sound of engines followed. Always too close, always behind them, John looked at Lyra, her face glowing faintly in the dark, her body fragile yet strong. He whispered, "We'll make it. We have to." She gave a weak nod, clutching the purse close. "If we fail," she said softly, "then the world will never know and my people will be erased." John's jaw tightened, his grip firm on the wrench. "We won't fail," he said. His voice sharp. He had no proof, no plan, only his promise, but in that moment it was enough. The rain returned, cold and heavy, washing the streets clean. John and Lyra ran through the storm, hunted but unbroken. The truth of the $3 burned between them, a secret too heavy for one world to hold. And in the distance, unseen but waiting, The hunters prepared their trap. The storm followed them through the night. John and Lyra found shelter in an old garage at the edge of the city. The smell of oil and rust filled the air, and broken cars stood like silent guardians in the dark. John closed the metal door, locking it with a chain. For the moment, they were hidden but not safe. Lyra sat on the floor, clutching the purse with the $3 close to her chest. Her glowing marks flickered weakly. A sign of exhaustion, John watched her with concern. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. She nodded, though her trembling hands told another story. "We can't keep running like this," John muttered, pacing the room. "They'll catch us sooner or later unless we find help." Lyra shook her head quickly, her eyes sharp. "Help is dangerous, human. Anyone you trust can betray you." "They always do," John wanted to argue, but he stayed quiet. Her words echoed in his mind. Still, he knew he needed support. Someone who knew the city. Someone who could guide them through. One name came to his mind. A name from his past, Marcus, an old friend. Someone who had once saved his life when things were dark. "We should go to Marcus," John said firmly. "He knows the city's underground. He can hide us. Maybe even help us reach your portal." Lyra hesitated, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Can he be trusted?" she asked. John nodded slowly. "If there's anyone, it's him." The next day, they moved carefully through the alleys until they reached a small mechanic shop. The shutters were down, but John knocked 3 times on the side door. After a pause, it opened and a tall man with a heavy beard appeared. "John," Marcus said, surprised. "I thought you disappeared years ago." John gave a weak smile. "Yeah, something like that." Marcus let them in, the smell of gasoline strong inside. When he saw Lyra, his eyes narrowed. "She's not human," he muttered. John tensed, ready to defend her. But Marcus raised his hands. "Relax, I've seen things. I know the world isn't what it looks like." For a moment, John felt relief. They sat together in the back room, and John explained everything. The hunters, the van, the glowing marks, the $3, the portal. Marcus listened carefully, nodding. Finally, he said, "If what you're saying is true, then you're carrying the biggest secret in the world." Lyra's eyes softened. "You believe us," she whispered. Marcus nodded. "I do. And I'll help." Hope flickered in John's chest for the first time. He gripped Marcus's arm. "Thank you, brother." Marcus gave a small smile. "You saved me once, John. Now it's my turn." That night, Marcus gave them food and a place to rest for the first time in days. John closed his eyes without fear, but deep in the night, voices whispered outside the shop. Lyra stirred first, her glowing marks brightening as she sat up. "John," she whispered urgently, "they are here." John grabbed the wrench, heart pounding. He rushed to wake Marcus, but Marcus was already standing near the door. His face was calm, too calm. John froze as realization struck him. Marcus wasn't surprised. He wasn't afraid. He was waiting. The side door opened and shadows entered. Hunters, their coats black, their eyes cold. Moving like machines, Lyra gasped, clutching the purse tighter. John turned to Marcus, his voice breaking. You called them." Marcus's eyes were hard. "I had no choice," he said flatly. "They offered me more money than I'll ever see in my life. And protection, too." John's chest tightened with rage. "You betrayed me." Marcus looked away, shame flickering across his face. "I betrayed her, not you, John. You'll survive if you hand her over." Hunters stepped forward, their metallic hands reaching. Lyra's glowing marks flared bright. Her body trembling with fear, John stood in front of her, gripping the wrench tightly. "You'll have to go through me," he growled. Marcus sighed. "Don't be a fool, John. You can't fight them." But John didn't move. Behind him, Lyra whispered, her voice weak but full of fire. "I told you, anyone you trust can betray you." Her glowing eyes locked on Marcus. "But I didn't think it would be your friend." One of the hunters lunged, metal fingers stretching toward her. In desperation, Lyra raised her hand, the glowing marks on her skin bursting with light. A wave of blue energy pulsed outward, throwing the hunter back against the wall with a crash. But the effort made her collapse to her knees, gasping. John grabbed her arm. Pulling her close, she was shaking, her strength fading fast. "Don't use it again," he whispered. "You'll kill yourself." Her glowing eyes dimmed, tears brimming. "If I don't, they will take me," she whispered back. The hunters regrouped, stepping closer, their shadows swallowing the room. Marcus backed away, his face pale. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. But his words were lost in the chaos. John tightened his grip on Lyra. He knew they couldn't win. Not here, not against them all. His only thought was escape. But as he looked at Lyra, trembling in his arms, her glowing light fading, he realized the truth. If she fell, if she died, the fight would become his. Her faint voice broke the silence. If I fall, you must carry it, human. You must carry the fight. Then her body went limp. Collapsing into his arms, John's heart froze. He stared down at her still face, at the purse clutched weakly in her hand. Behind him, the hunters moved closer, their shadows stretching long across the floor. John's grip on the wrench tightened until his knuckles turned white. The world slowed, every sound drowned by the pounding of his heart. She had trusted him. Now it was his turn to prove he deserved it. The garage was filled with shadows. Hunters closed in, their black coats brushing the floor, their metal hands glinting under the dim light. John held Lyra in his arms, her glowing marks faint and flickering, her breathing shallow. His chest ached with fear. But deeper than fear was rage. They had hunted her, broken her, and now betrayed him through his oldest friend. Marcus stood near the door, his eyes avoiding John's. This can end without blood, Marcus muttered, his voice low, almost pleading. Hand her over, John. Save yourself. John's grip on the wrench tightened, his knuckles white, his voice was sharp, filled with fire. You think I'll sell her like you did? The hunters stepped closer, their footsteps heavy like drums of war. John stood tall, placing Lyra gently on the ground. He whispered to her, Stay with me, please. Don't give up. Her glowing eyes flickered open for a second, her lips forming weak words. Fight, human. Show them we are not nothing. Her voice was fading, but it lit a fire in John's soul. He stood between her and the hunters, his body shaking but his spirit unbroken. The first hunter lunged, fast and sharp. John swung the wrench with all his strength. The metal connected with the hunter's skull. Sparks flying, the creature stumbled but did not fall. Another hunter moved in, its hand reaching for John's throat. John ducked, rolling across the oily floor, grabbing a broken pipe as a second weapon. His heart pounded, his breath ragged, but he refused to stop. Behind him, Lyra whispered faintly, her glowing marks flickering like dying embers. He had to protect her. No matter the cost, Marcus shouted, John, stop this. You can't win. But John ignored him, his eyes wild. I'd rather die fighting than live as a traitor, he spat. The hunters attacked together, their movements precise. Their strength unnatural. John swung wildly. Blocking, striking, dodging, every blow rattled his bones. Every step pushed him closer to collapse, and yet, something strange happened. Each time John's blood touched the floor, the glowing marks on Lyra's skin flared brighter. Her light pulsed in rhythm with his fight, as if their lives were now connected. She raised her trembling hand, barely able to move. Her voice was weak but clear. John, take the purse. Use the truth. John's eyes darted to the purse clutched beside her. He dived, grabbing it just as a hunter's blade tore through the floor where he had stood. Opening it with shaking hands, he pulled out the 3 glowing bills. They shimmered with blue light, the alien code alive. The hunters froze for a moment, their eyes glowing red. Reacting to the data they feared most, John shouted, his voice echoing through the garage. You hide in shadows, you lie, you kill, but the world will see you now. He held the glowing bills high, the code projecting faint light across the walls. The hunters roared, charging to stop him. Marcus screamed, Don't do it, John, you'll bring them all on you. But John had already made his choice. He slammed the bills against a broken radio on the workbench. The alien symbols sparked, fusing with the circuits. A wave of light burst outward, carrying the hidden data into the air. The old antenna on the roof hummed, sending the signal far beyond the city. The hunters staggered, their movements glitching, their voices metallic and broken. The truth was spreading, reaching every screen, every signal, every human eye. Images of alien prisons, experiments, weapons, and betrayals filled the world. No more hiding, no more lies. Marcus fell to his knees, his face pale with shock. What have you done? He whispered. John turned to him, his eyes burning with fury. I ended the silence, he said, his voice steady. You betrayed me, Marcus. But I will never betray her, the hunters shrieked, their bodies sparking. Some collapsing under the weight of exposed truth, but more were coming. John could hear the roar of engines outside. He rushed back to Lyra, kneeling beside her. Her glowing eyes flickered open again, weak but filled with pride. You did it, human. You carried the fight. John held her hand tightly, his voice breaking. "Stay with me, Lyra, please." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "For the first time, a human chose us," she whispered. Then her eyes closed, her body falling limp once more. John felt tears burn his eyes, but he did not stop. He stood tall, wrench in one hand, purse in the other, facing the hunters as more shadows filled the doorway. The city outside echoed with sirens, voices, chaos. The world was changing because of the truth he had unleashed. The hunters snarled, stepping forward. John's chest heaved, his voice steady. "This isn't just her fight anymore," he said. "This is humanity's fight." And as the hunters closed in, John raised his weapons not as a man running from fear, but as the first human to stand beside the broken, the hunted, and the forgotten. The final battle had begun, and there was no turning back.